Hello everyone, this is Unit 2, Lesson 2, Learning Target. I can write a linear equation by using the slope-intercept form or the point-slope form of a line, and we'll get through all of that this lesson. The launch says students in a science class recorded lengths of a stretched spring as shown in the table below. So we are talking about the table right over here, and this is your X. It says, and this is your Y. This is the input, and this is the output. So input, and this is the output. So which equation best represents the relationship between the distance stretched, which is the X, distance stretched in centimeters, and the mass of an object on the spring, which is Y, and that is in grams. So the best way to do this is to just go ahead and substitute. So the Y is 0, so I'm going to just put that in here. And then negative 6 times 0, that equals 0. 6 times 0, I'm substituting the X as 0, and Y is supposed to come out as 0. This one works as well. This, if I substitute the 0 in here, 0 divided by 6, no matter what that negative says, that equals 0. And 0 divided by 6, that equals 0 as well. So all of these equations work out for the first X and Y. Let's go ahead and now talk about the 2. When I substitute, I'm going to erase all this. When I substitute the 2 in, I'm going to substitute the 2 in as the X. So negative 6 times 2 is supposed to be negative 12. Negative times a positive is negative 12. This one's out already. I'm supposed to have positive 12. When I input 2, I'm supposed to get positive 12. I do not. Let's go on to B. The Y is supposed to be 12, right? And I'm going to input the 2. 6 times 2 equals 12. This is a possible answer. Here's an X, right? I'm going to erase that 0 because we already proved that the 0 it works for all of the equations. Now I'm going to put this X in as 2 over 6. First off, I know it's negative, but 2 over 6 does not equal 12. 2 over 6 equals 1/3. This is out. And the same thing here. If I put a 2 in, substitute a 2 in, and it's 2 over 6, that does not equal 12 at all. This is out. The only one that works is B. And let's just try one more. When the X is 5, right? The X is 5. I'm supposed to get 30 in return, and I do. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 9, let's just go on another one, is 54. And 6 times 12 equals 72. So B works for all of the values, the input values and the output values. So let's go on to another launch, and now we have name the y-intercept. So I'm going to highlight that y-intercept. That is where the line crosses, and you can write this down because this is important. It crosses the y-axis. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. That y-intercept is where that line crosses right through the y-axis. So I am going to highlight right now. I'm going to highlight that y-axis. And I'm going to highlight it down just like this. Okay? So I am going to line A. I'm going to circle where it crosses. See this y-axis right here? I'm going down, and there is the point where this A line crosses the y-axis. And at what number does that cross? Give you a couple of seconds, take a look at it. Yes, if you said 5, that is correct. And by the way, the B is the y-intercept. Like M is slope, B is the y-intercept. Line B crosses right here. What number is that? If you said 0, you are correct. And then C crosses right about there. It's in between, where it crosses is that it's in between -6 and -7. What number is in between -6 and -7? If you said -6.5, you are correct. Let's go down, and the fast finisher is to find the slope of each line. Go ahead, find the slope of each line. I'll do A with you. I'm going to pick 2 points. Remember, you have 3 points on all of these lines, so you only need 2 points to find slope, and it's any 2 points. You could pick the points that are furthest apart, or you could pick the points that are closest together. I always go for the points that are closest together because it's easier to count. And I know that if I count across a whole graph, I might get something wrong. I might miscount. So for line A, I'm going to go down and to the right. I already know this is a negative slope because it goes down from left to right. It goes down. So is line B going down, and line C goes down as well. So I am going to count now how much I did go down. And if you see that, that is 2. And since I went down, I'm going to put a -2. Remember, going down into the negatives, you could just take a look at the negatives here. Going down is going into the negatives. That is negative. Going up is positive. So we have, again, we have a 2. Let me just switch to the yellow again, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I am going to, since I went to the right, going into the positives, going this way is going into the positives, going right is getting going into the greater numbers. That is a +6. So the slope of line A, and I'm going to put that right on here. Remember, this is rise over run because this is a graphed line. And M equals, for line A, -2 over 6, which could reduce to -1 over 3. That's the slope. Line B, go ahead and take 2 points, make them close together, line B, and figure out the slope. And then do the same thing for line C. Press pause and try those 2 problems now. All right, so I did line B. So I'm going to do rise over run again, and I don't skip anything. I rewrite the formula. The rise is -1 and the run is 3. -1 over 3. Look, it's this. These are the same. They have the same slope. Line A and B, same slope. Let's take a look at line C. Do you notice? I always said, like, take the points that are closest together, because you don't want to. You want to, count across the whole graph. But do you see where this point is, where the y-intercept is? That's in the middle of -6 and -7, and I don't want to pick that point that's in the middle. I always pick a point that is in the corner of the boxes. All right, so that's the corner, and then this is the corner. All right, so I'm going to go down, and you should have done this already. I'm going to go down all the way to there, and then I'm going to move over to the right That's a long way. All right, let's count down. 1, 2, 3. That is a -3. You should have that. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I'm going to put the rise over run. The rise is -3. The run is 14. This is not equal to the rest, to A and B. That's different. You can't reduce it. There's no number that goes into both numerator and denominator. So you're going to leave it -3 over 14. You do not express slope as a decimal. 9 times out of 10. All right, so you're going to leave it that way. So it says find the slope of each line. We did. What do you notice about line A and line B besides that they have the same slope? Okay, so if you have, this is what we want to find out here. If you have the same slope, what do you think line A and B, what do you call those lines? Look at those lines. Look at them. Yeah, they're parallel. So I'm going to put down parallel lines have equal slopes. Parallel lines have equal slopes. Please put that down. That is the main part of this whole screen right here, this whole slide. All right, line A and B are parallel. They have the same slope. Line C is not parallel to B or A, so that means this slope is different. Still going down from left to right, still negative, but it's not the same. And that means line C is not parallel to line A and B. All right, so this is called slope-intercept form. And what we have here is the equation of a line. An equation of a line is the same thing all the time. In slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So it's y equals mx plus b, and the m stands for the slope. The b is the y-intercept. And this is the reason why it's called slope-intercept form. It's because it has the slope and the intercept in the formula. And that means, all right, we have the slope-intercept form. Slope and intercept are in the formula. So the questions are going to go like this. They're going to give you an equation of a line in y equal, it might not be in y equals mx plus b, but this one is y equals mx plus b. Since this is in y equals mx plus b, you could go ahead and figure out the slope and the y-intercept right off the bat. So what number is here in this equation? What number is next to the x? By the way, the coefficient. Next to the x, that's the slope. If you said -6, you are correct. What is the other number in this space right here in the equation? Yes, if you said 5, since I'm underlining it, you are correct. So this line, y equals -6x plus 5, is in y equals mx plus b form, so you don't have to solve for y. And you know that the slope is the number that is next to the x, and then the other number is the y-intercept. And that is it. So from this slope, you could tell that the line is going down from left to right since it is a negative slope. And it crosses on a y-axis at 5. 0, 5, by the way. 0, 5 is the coordinate that the y-intercept is at. So if you have a that's really bad, but I'm going to sketch it really quick, just like that. 0, 5 is 0 on the x, and then 5 up right there. That's the y-intercept. And this line is a very steep line because the number is -6 is far away from 0. So it's down 6 and run 1. Down 6 and run 1. And it crosses at 5. And that's it. All right, so take a look at the next equation. You see how this is in y equals mx plus b? Is this one in y equals mx plus b? It isn't. It's not. Is this equation different from the equation above? Yes, it is. It's not the same. If so, write the difference, and explore what steps you must take to solve for the slope. Number 1, you have to get rid of that 5. The -5 must move. To the right. Oh my goodness. To the right side of the equal sign. You have to isolate the y. You must solve for y. Must solve for y. And you must have y equals mx plus b to identify the slope and the y-intercept. If you don't have y equals mx plus b, guess what? You cannot tell me what the slope is. All right, so let's go. We have y minus 5 equals -6x. What do you do to get the y alone? The opposite of -5 is +5. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add 5 to both sides. Please don't say that's 11x on the right side. It is not. It's y equals -6x. And by the way, I always put the x, the number with the x first. That's -6x plus 5. This is y equals mx plus b. So now you could get the slope and the y-intercept. Think about what the slope is. It is the number that is next to the x. The slope is -6. You are correct. Hopefully you did understand that. -6 is the slope. What is the y-intercept? It's the other number, so it is 5. Remember, when it's not in y equals mx plus b format, you must solve for y. All right, so let's go on to the next page. I am going to do the first one with you, and then we're going to take a couple at a time, and we'll come back. And remember, the question is to identify the slope and the y-intercept of each line. I am going to put a giant y equals mx plus b on the top. It needs to be in that form to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Number 1 is in that form, so go ahead and put m and b down. What is the number that is the slope that is next to the x? Yes, it is 3. What is the other number, the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis? That is 5. Good. Go ahead and try number 2 right now. Quickly. Write down y equals -4x. I'm not pausing because this is too easy of a question. Put down the m and the b. There's no work here because this is y equals mx plus b. Even though it's a minus, it's a plus b. All right, that's the b. So what is your slope? What is your slope in number 2? Yep, it is -4. Remember that sign before the number is the sign of the number. So do not forget it. The y-intercept is -5. That's the y-intercept, not just 5, but -5. It crosses at -5 on the y-axis. So let's take number 3 right now. Take a look at what number 3 is. You're talking about y equals mx plus b? Is that y equals mx plus b? No. What number is next to the y? Yes, the 3 is next to the y, and you need it to go away. All right? You need the y alone. So what do you do on both sides to get rid of the 3, to cancel out that 3? The opposite of this multiplication is division. All right, so we're going to divide by the number next to the variable, which is y, which is 3. And you're dividing by 3 on both sides. The 3's cancel, the y comes down. At this point, you're going to have to do this division separately, right? One part at a time. So 6 divided by 3. What is 6 divided by 3? If you said 2, you are correct. Do not forget about this x coming down, x. Then I'm going to circle -12 divided by 3. If you need your calculator for -12 divided by 3, then use the calculator. All right, so -12 divided by 3. You shouldn't need the calculator, but if you do, who cares? Nobody cares. All right, so you have -4. So you put down the -4. Sorry, that's in yellow. I'm going to put that in red. So now you have a y equals mx plus b. What is the slope? The number that is next to the x is the slope. That is 2. The number that is the other number is a -4. So that is the y-intercept. Please go ahead and try number 4. Press pause now. So this is it. I subtracted 5 on both sides because I needed this y alone. I need y equals mx plus b. 7 minus 5 is 2. I'm good with that. M equals 2, and so does b. B equals 2. All right, so now number 5, a little bit more difficult, but if you can do number 5, that's really, really good. So let's go ahead and take it and try it. So here's the 2x, here's the plus 4y. This is nowhere near y equals mx plus b. Nowhere near it. So we need this y alone. I'm going to try to get this over to the other side. How do we do that? The whole 2x. Don't divide. We don't want to break up the 2 and the x. We want to take that 2x and we want to bring it over, carry it over past an equal sign to this side. So if it's a positive 2x, you have to do the opposite of positive 2x. That is -2x. Minus 2x. This cancels. I'm going to make my big line, and I'm going to rewrite 4y equals, and I'm going to tell you, I always put this x factor first. So I'm going to put negative, you see this negative? 2x, and this is a positive 12, plus 12. So I write it like that because I know that when I go ahead and solve, I want it to be in y equals mx plus b format, where I don't have to worry about like reading it backwards or anything like that. I just place that x first with the sign of that number, and you'll be okay. So what is the final step? Are you ahead of me? You should be. I need this 4y. It's just like this one, just like number 3. All right, what did you do? Yes, you divide by 4 on both sides. Divide by 4 on both sides. This cancels. Y equals. I'm going to circle. Please pay attention right now because I'm going to circle this. Realize that is not a whole number when you divide it. That's a point, negative 0.5. Do not put negative 0.5 for the slope. It should be, if it's not a whole number, it should be in rise over run format, right? It's not decimal. So negative 2 over 4 is negative 1/2. It reduces to negative 1/2. And you put the x down. Then I'm going to go over, this is the y-intercept. Already in your head, you know what the y-intercept, this is the y-intercept it's going to be. That's exactly what it is. 12 divided by 4 is 3. I have y equals mx plus b, so now I put the m as negative 1/2 and the b as 3. 3. All right, so that's it. So don't, remember, do not keep the fraction. I always say keep the fraction. Keep it. When I say keep it, I mean negative 2 over 4, negative positive 1 over 3. Keep it 1/4. Don't change 1/4 to 0.25. Keep 1/4. All right, and that's basically it. I'm going to move my face all the way over here because we have number 6 to do, and number 6 is the most difficult of them all. No, maybe not. It's the same thing as number 5. You want to give it a try? Go ahead, give it a try, see if you can do it. Press pause and we'll come back and discuss the problem now. So the first thing that I did was subtract 10x from both sides, and then I have listen, you could put it any way. You could do 40 minus 10x. Or you could do negative 10x plus 40 equals 10y. Right, I'm just switching it around because I want it to be y equals mx plus b. All right, so the last step is to divide by 10. Right, and you divide by 10. This cancels, the y comes down. That's what we wanted, y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to use my yellow pen. What is negative 10 divided by 10? Negative 10 divided by 10. Negative 10 divided by 10. Negative 1. So you could put a negative 1, but I'm just going to put a negative x. It's understood that there's a 1 that is in front there of the x, that coefficient. So you could put the 1 there, but on a test, realize that you have to know that the coefficient before that x is the 1. All right, so I'm going to talk 40 divided by 10, and that is plus 4. So the slope is negative 1, the y-intercept is 4. That is it. It's a tough question, but I think you can do it. No problem. All right, that is number 6. Okay, so explore this lab sheet. So write a linear equation based on the table below. And remember, when it says linear equation, guess what it means? Linear, y equals mx plus b. What are the 2 things that you need to write an equation? You could do this. 2 things. What do you need? We'll put it over here. Number 1. What's in this equation? if you're saying slope is in the equation, you're correct. Slope, the m. What's the other thing that's in this equation that you need? Yes, the y-intercept. And that's the b. So two things. If you get those two things, you could put the equation together. All right? How do we get the y-intercept? Okay. So I am going to outline something for you. The y-intercept is right here. Think about it. If I sketch this, right, you could always graph it. But if I sketch this, this is my x, this is my y. I'm big onto sketches. I can't draw, but I could sketch. 0 is the x. This is your x value. And this is your y value. So 0, you don't go right or left. Up 3. That's the y-intercept. The 3 is the y-intercept. So I'm going to put down one of the two things that I need. Now I need the slope. How do I get slope of this table? Remember what we did before. We labeled. So just be careful though. This is x1. I'm going to label this x1. This right here is going to be my y1. This is going to be my x2. This is going to be my y2. If you really want to, this is your x. I'm going to go over here. This is 0, 3, 0, 3, and then 1, 5. And you can label it right here, x1, y1, x2, y2. I labeled it on the table, but you could also take out those coordinates and you can label them on the side. All right, and then do your figure out your slope. So one thing that I want to say is you have to know the slope formula. Do you know the slope formula when you do not have a graph? You don't have a graphed line. So you need y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 on the tip of your tongue. All right, you have to memorize that formula. So what's my y2? By the way, trying to teach this in class, nobody's doing really what I'm suggesting. Do you see this m and this equal sign, and I set up the fraction? I'm going to put the minus sign and the minus sign. Those two things are coming from the formula. Not enough people are doing that. All right, and now you're forgetting if there's a double negative, that's when you're making errors here. All right, that's when people make errors, when they're not listening. Right? They just the suggestion is there because we know that people make these mistakes with the double negatives. Now, take a look. I have y2, so y2 minus y1. My y1 is 3. That's 5 minus 3. x2 on the bottom part minus x1, which is 0. M equals 2. 5 minus 3, 2 over 1. M equals 2. So the slope is 2. The y-intercept is 3. What's the equation of a line with a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 3? Take a second, write it down. Equation of a line with a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 3. Yep, so y equals mx plus b. We have it up here. We're going to substitute the m in as 2x and then the b in as 3. This is the equation of a line, of this line. I want to show you a couple of things before we move on, and I am going to move this over here. No, I'm not. I'm going to move this over here. And the reason why I have it in the center of the screen is because I want your undivided attention on this calculator. Do you see this right here? Easy numbers. You don't need a calculator for 5 minus 3 and 1 minus 0. There's a reason for that. We'll get to it. I'm going to press, there's a couple of different ways you could bring up the fraction symbol on the calculator. Pressing alpha, which is this, and X. This is the X. Alpha and the next button to the right of it, X, will bring up the fraction symbol. You could also press alpha and Y, and it brings up the little hidden menu. And if you see 1, that is it. It's on 1, and press enter, and you have your fraction symbol. This is the third way. You could press math, and all the way on the end of math is this frac, right, for fraction. You go to the right, and you see that menu that popped up with alpha Y. This is the menu, and you press enter, and you get that fraction. So 3 different ways. I am going to use alpha X to bring up the fraction. Now I have 5 minus 3 on the top part, the numerator, and the denominator is 1 minus 0. And I press to the right to get away from the fraction, and that is 2. All right, so realize that I picked any 2 points on this table. I could have picked the first 2 points, but why do you think I didn't? I need 2 points to figure out slope. Why do you think I didn't pick the first 2 points? If you're saying, yeah, there's negatives there, that is true. I try to avoid all negatives, and I also go for, if there's 1 0 here, like as a part of the coordinate, I usually pick that. So I picked 0, 3 and 1, 5. Look how easy it became. If I picked these negatives, it wouldn't be easy. It would be difficult. We'd have double negatives and everything like that. We'd still get the same answer, but you don't want to subtract a negative. Even in the calculator, you might make a mistake. So try to avoid the negatives. Pick the points that are easiest for you to deal with. And so 0, 3 and 1, 5, pretty easy. 1, 5 and 2, 7, those are easy also. And remember, y2 minus y1 is 7 minus 5, that would be. And then 2 minus 1 would result in the same slope. All right, so pick some easy coordinates. Question B says, write an equation of a line that is parallel to the equation for question A. So go back and look at this slide. Line A and line B were parallel. What was their slope? Line A slope was negative 1 over 3. Line B slope was negative 1 over 3. They had the same slope. That made them parallel. So this question here with the parallel, create a parallel line, an equation that is parallel to this one. Well, all you have to do is put down y equals, and it has to be the same slope. What was the slope of this line? It was 2. If you put anything other than 2x here, you are incorrect. You could put y equals 2x minus 5. That's okay, that's parallel. Y equals 2x. That would be parallel. Y equals 2x plus 10. That's parallel. As long as the slope is the same, m equals 2, m equals 2, m equals 2, that means these lines are all parallel to this one and to each other. All right, so that is that question. So let's go ahead and talk about this question here. Mary wants to graph, it says write the equation of a line. Mary wants to graph a linear function that is a slope of 4, m equals 4. Put it down. and a y-intercept of 8. Okay, so I had it right up there. So put 4 down for the m. It tells you what the slope is, and it tells you what the y-intercept is. So 8 is there. So a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of 8 goes into y equals mx plus b. Please put that in. Write your equation now. Not press and pause. We have no time. Y equals, hopefully you got it. You're going to substitute the m in as 4. Y equals 4x plus 8. Frank wants to graph the linear function. Go ahead and do B and the fast finisher. Do both of those. Find the equation of the line. Press pause now. Okay, hopefully you did get m equals a half and b equals -6. It's y equals a half x minus 6. This one right here, the fast finisher, very important. Please copy this down. You can press pause and just copy that down. So y equals 4x is the equation of this line. You notice that we're not putting the 0 plus 0 down. You don't need it. It's not necessary. When you see y equals 4x, you know it crosses through the origin, which is 0, 0. Since it crosses through the origin, it is called a direct variation. This is what you should have copied. A direct variation is a line, a linear function, that crosses through. All right, there we go. Crosses through the origin. And that's a little piggy. All right. So direct variation is a line that crosses through the 0, 0. So when you see a y-intercept of 0, it is called a direct variation. This is the mid-level assessment, mid-lesson assessment. Find the slope of the equation below. Try to do the problem and also do the 3 problems. Find the slope and the y-intercept. We'll go over all 4 of these when we come back. Try the problems now, and you could press pause. So hopefully you did do these problems. The first thing that you do is to get that 15x, that negative 15x, over to the right side of the equation, away from the 5y. The side where that 5y is needs to be alone. So the negative 15x and the positive 15x cancel out, and then you have 5y equals 15x plus 30. Notice I put the 15x first because I'm prepping my division now and prepping my equation, so it is in that format of y equals mx plus b. The next thing that you do is to divide by the number that is next to the y. You always do the opposite of what you see. You see multiplication, you divide. Y equals, and I am going to my yellow marker right now. 15 divided by 5 is a whole number. You could divide it, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. Remember, the 3x comes down. And then 30 divided by 5 is 6. That's about 6. So it just wants you to find the slope. And so the slope doesn't say anything about the y-intercept, but the slope is 3. So C is your answer. All right. Okay, let's go ahead. This or all y equals mx plus b. So this should be quick. M equals 3. B equals -5. You should have done this. You're finished with this. M equals 7/6. The number before the x is the slope. It's also called the coefficient. And b equals 3/4. That's this. M equals -4/5. And b equals, I don't see any b. What happens when you don't see a b? It is 0. All right, my question to you is, which one of these equations is a direct variation? Put a star next to that one. Yes, this is a direct variation. This crosses through the origin. It has a y-intercept of 0. It's a straight line, a linear function that crosses through the origin is a direct variation. All right, so just remember, this is a direct variation. Which one of these lines is going down from left to right? Down from left to right. Yep, the direct variation is going down from left to right. It's the only one with a negative slope. All right, let's go on to the next page. Go ahead, find the slope and the y-intercept of the linear function above. Go ahead and solve for y. Remember, you have to solve for y because it has to be in this format to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Press pause and try the problem now. So I got up to this. I added 6x to both sides. This should be a little bit easy for you at this point, and you're dividing by 3 on both sides. So I'm going to take my yellow marker out. 6 divided by 3 and 18 divided by 3. All whole numbers. So for the slope, anyway, 6 divided by 3, y equals 2. 6 divided by 3, and then put that x there. 18 divided by 3, that is 6. So what is the slope in the y-intercept, m and b? You probably have it down before I do. The slope is the number before x, that is 2, and the y-intercept is 6. And now we have this question. Everybody goes, oh no, we have fractions. Do not worry about the fractions. We have a calculator, and we are going to put the calculator right up on the screen right now, and not that way. We're going to move it over there, and now we're going to clear it out, and we are going to solve this for the slope and the y-intercept. It does not change anything. I don't know why I put m equals. It does not change anything that there's fractions there. Remember, it still has to be in y equals mx plus b format. So how do we start to solve for y? Just like the equations above, we have to move this x over to the other side. So how do I do that? Yes, let's move that x over to the other side by subtracting the 1/2 x. So I'm going to cancel this out, and I'm going to bring down the 3 over 2y equals -1/2 x plus 12. All right. So now we come to the point where you can either divide by 3 over 2 or multiply by the reciprocal. What I want to tell you is that in 9th grade, we are going to, and the professor is always going to show you to multiply by that reciprocal. You can divide, but that is not the way that we're going to do this problem. Any fraction that you want to get rid of, you must, it's the easiest way, the easiest method is to multiply by the reciprocal, and I'll keep on showing you to multiply by the reciprocal until you get it. Every time you see a fraction, you multiply by that reciprocal, and the reciprocal is just switching the numerator and denominator. That's all it is. So don't make it any more difficult than it is. It is just multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply 3 over 2. The reciprocal is 2 over 3. Multiply by that side. And then I have to put this in parentheses and multiply by 2 over 3. Look what happens. Look how easy this is. The 2 cancels with the 2. The 3 cancels with the 3. You have y alone. That is so nice. All right, now the calculator, where does it come through? Where does it come in? Well, take a look. I am going to put alpha x, and I'm going to put -1 over 2. And I'm going to get away from that. So this is kind of like distributive. It is distributive property. It's not kind of like, it's distributive property. So 2/3 times -1/2. So times alpha x, again, bring up the fraction 2 over 3. I have -1/2 times 2/3. 2/3 times -1/2. Doesn't matter, you know, because multiplication is commutative. So I'm going to press enter. -1/3. Don't forget the x. Wow, that's my slope. All right, I'm going to try it again. 2/3 times 12. Alpha x. 2 over 3. Love the calculator. Times 12. 8. Awesome. What's the slope in the y-intercept? That was an easy problem, but it was so difficult because I had fractions. Don't worry about the fractions. Don't change the fractions to decimals. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do that anymore. You have a calculator. M equals -1 over 3 and B equals 8. Please, please, just don't freak out with this fractions, whatever. The calculator is going to help you through. Always help you through. Please use it. Get one and you'll be okay. Trust me. All right. So for this part of the lesson, I am going to just tell you to do all of these problems. There's 11 problems, and I am just going to go through them. I'm going to put up the answers and go through them. You're going to have to press pause and keep it on pause for a while because it's going to take you a long time to do all of these problems. There's 11 of the problems. None of these problems, none of these equations are solved for y. All right, so go ahead, do every single one of them, and we'll come back and talk about all of them. Do not press play until you're finished with all the problems. All right, do not press play until you're finished with all the problems. Then we can go over it and we could look at the questions. You could pause it more and stuff like that. Go ahead, try all of the problems. Solve for y. You have to get y equals mx plus b. After solving for y, find the slope and the y-intercept of each one. Go ahead, press pause, and do all of the problems now. Okay. So my hand is about to fall off, and I'm sure yours is too. So I just want to say, like, this whole page, I can't talk about this whole page right now. It would be like 3 hours of video. So the one thing that I do want you to understand, I'll key on a couple of things. Remember, you have to get the y alone, and you add x on both sides, right? Then it becomes 2y equals x minus 20. Just remember, there's a 1 in front of here. So 1 over 2, I'm going to keep that fraction. I'm not going to make it 0.50. Please do not make that 0.50. You keep the half. Bring the x down. -20 divided by 2 is -10. The slope is a half. The y-intercept is -10. All right. So number 7 was easy. And please go ahead and pause. If you are checking your answers, you're pressing pause, the screen stops and pauses, and you're able to kind of write down or erase or anything like that that you need to do. Number 2, same thing. Look, I added the 3x from both sides, on both sides. The 3's cancel, 3x's cancel out. It becomes 2y equals 3x plus 6. I divided by 2. Do you see this 3 over 2? I kept it. I didn't make it 1.5. It's 3 over 2. So just remember, don't divide. You can divide the y-intercept. 6 divided by 2 is 3. but not the slope. The slope is supposed to be in rise over run. So number 2 is that. This one right here, pretty straightforward. Number 8. Number 3, again, see this? You add 5x on both sides. Then you have 2y equals 5x plus 6. You divide by 2 on both sides. 5 over 2. 5 over 2. I keep it. 6 divided by 2 is 3. The slope is 5 over 2. The y-intercept is 3. All right, same thing here. Minus 5x on both sides. Number 9. You divide by 2 on both sides. Then you have negative 5 over 2. I kept it. Negative 5 over 2. 8 divided by 2 is positive 4. The slope is negative 5 over 2. The y-intercept is 4. The one that I wanted to go down, and hopefully you did get right here, again, I'm keeping this fraction for number 4. I'm keeping the fraction again for number 10. You notice that that's the slope. I'm not going to divide them. The one I really wanted to go over is number 11. I subtracted x on both sides, and I have negative y. See this? Negative y equals negative x plus 15. Since this has a negative 1 next to it, I divided by a negative because the negative y is not good enough. Like, you need to get a positive y. So when you divide by the negative 1, the number next to the y is a negative y. That is a negative 1. So that means divide by negative 1 on both sides, and you get positive y, and equals negative 1 again divided by negative 1 is a positive 1. And then 15 divided by negative 1 is negative 15. That's it. All right. Go ahead and take a look at all these problems. I'm pretty sure you have the ability to pause right now and just look at all of this. This is a lot of work. All of the slope and y-intercepts are in blue. All of my work is in red. If you have any questions, please definitely get in touch with us and we'll go over whatever you need to go over. Let's go ahead and talk about slope-intercept form. The reason why this is called slope-intercept form is because it has a slope and the intercept. Convert the following lines to slope-intercept form. We are going to stop at slope-intercept form. So I'm going to do the first one with you, and we'll take you through the next. You're going to do the rest of them on your own. Remember, you have to solve for y to get into slope to y equals mx plus b form. And I do distributive property. I have 2x minus 10. Then I add 3 on both sides. And I'm going to get slope-intercept form. Y equals 2x minus 7. That is slope-intercept form. And then from there, we can get the slope and the y-intercept. Go ahead, do the next 2 problems on your own. Press pause now. So there you have it. You distribute the half, and the half times x, and a half times negative 6 is negative 3. You minus 4 on both sides. You get slope-intercept form. Y equals a half x minus 7. You minus 7 on, actually, you do distributive property first. Get rid of those parentheses. So minus 7 on both sides. You get y equals 3x minus 10. And here we go. So this is called, what we see on the top of the screen right here in green is the point slope formula. And the reason why it's called the point slope formula is because you have point and the slope given. So it says to write an equation in point slope form first and then slope intercept form next. So I'll do the first one with you and we'll take you through. It is not that difficult. Remember, this is the x, so 2, we're going to label that x1. And this is the y. So this is the point. And this is the slope. Whenever you're using point, whenever you have one point and a slope, you use the point slope formula. So this is the point slope formula. I am going to write that down here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That is called the point slope formula because you have a point and the slope. So we have y minus, and I'm going to substitute my y1. You see this y1? That's 5. So I'm going to substitute that in. They give us the slope of 4. That's the m. So we're going to put that 4 in. Then it's times x minus x1, which is 2. This is point slope form. That's one of the answers, point slope form. Now we have to go for slope intercept form. So I'm going to rewrite it over here. Y minus 5 equals 4 times x minus 2. To get it into slope intercept form, you have to solve for y. We know how to do that. We're going to distribute. We did it in the prior questions. Y minus 5 equals 4x minus 8. Then you add 5 to both sides. And you're going to get 4x minus 3. This is called, let me just minus that out to get a different color here. This is called slope intercept form, because it has the slope and the intercept in it. This is point slope form because it has a point and the slope in it. All right, so here we go. We are going to do B and try C. Press pause, try the problems now. Okay, so we have a point and the slope. We have to write down the point slope formula. It's up there, right? So here we go. We're going to substitute in y minus, from the formula, y1 is a negative 5. So I just want to tell you something about this. When you have two minus sign and a negative right in a row, they become plus. It's keep, change, change. So make them positive right now. Right, equals the slope. The slope is 3/4. Don't worry about it. You have a calculator. X minus, from the formula, x1 is another negative. Don't worry about it because there's two negatives right in a row, minus sign and a negative. They become a positive. This is called point slope form. That's right there. That's the answer. We have to get this into slope intercept form. So I'm going to go over here. Put y plus 5 equals 3/4 times x plus 4. So let's go ahead and distribute this. So I have y plus 5 equals 3/4 x plus, because it's positive times a positive, I'm going to bring up the trusty calculator and I'm going to do alpha x is 3/4 times 4 is 3. All right, one more step. Minus 5. Minus 5. We're almost at point slope intercept form. Slope intercept. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. This is slope y-intercept form. This is point slope form. All right, one more, the challenge. So you notice that these problems here, they only give you a point and a slope. I have 2 points, but I have no slope. Can I get the slope from the 2 points? Yes, you have to do that first. Go ahead and find the slope of these 2 points first, and then use the point slope formula to figure out the point slope form, and then convert it into slope intercept form. Press pause, try the problem now. Remember, find the slope first. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Press pause now. Okay, so here it's a lot of work, but you can find the slope. x1, y1, x2, y2 on that top part right there. Then you find the slope as -2. Don't forget, you have those double negatives. Put them in the calculator. 8 divided by -4 is -2. Then you want to try to find the point slope form. And when you do that, you write down the formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm going to use the x1 and y1 that are already labeled for the slope. So I'm going to put in y minus a -6. That becomes a positive, the minus negative, equals -2, which is my slope that I figured out right there, and times x minus x1, which is 3. That is my point slope form. I can stop there. All right, if I just want point slope form. Since I want slope intercept form, I have to take that, multiply, do the distributive property, and solve for y. When I do, I get y equals -2x. That is slope intercept form, where the slope is -2 and the y-intercept is 0. This is a direct variation. It's a line that goes through the origin. All right, press pause if you need to copy any of that down, because we are moving on. It says, let's explore. Write an equation in point slope form. Just point slope form. That means y equals mx plus b. That passes through a -2, 3 with a slope of 4. Here's the point slope formula on the bottom. We just did problems like this. Just remember, the first thing that you always do is label x1 and y1. We are going to use this formula, substitute in, and solve for point slope. Remember, y equals mx plus b is point slope formula. Is the equation of the line. So we're given the point slope formula. What is it? It says write an equation in point slope form. All right, so point slope, not slope intercept. All right, so what I was just saying, remember, slope intercept is y equals mx plus b. Point slope is this. So all you have to do is substitute this in and then just leave it. That's your answer. All right, so point slope form. So I'm just going to go ahead and substitute in. This is y minus, from this formula, what is y1? My y1 is 3. Okay, we don't need the parentheses around that. What's the slope? They give you a slope of 4. X minus, well, I have a -2. See that double negative? Change it to a positive. Minus a negative is positive. So my final answer is y minus 3, 4 times x plus 2. You do not need to distribute it. This is called point slope form. If you want to get into slope intercept form, then you do distributive property and then add 3 on both sides. You get y equals mx plus b. But this is your answer here you could leave it. This is the point slope form, and that is it. When they ask you for point slope form, don't give them slope intercept form. Give them what they want. Moving on, exploring together. This is a little bit more difficult because it's not giving you the slope. They are giving you 2 points. They're giving you 2 points, but it is not. We don't have the slope, so we have to calculate the slope first. Remember, to use the point slope formula, you need a slope and 1 point. We have 2 points, but we don't have the slope. So go ahead, see if you could figure out the slope of these 2 points. Remember, x1, y1. Don't skip this. x2, y2. Does everybody remember? We just used the slope formula. What does m equal? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, go ahead, see if you can find the slope, and then use that formula. Use this formula to find the point slope form. Press pause and try the problem now. So going forward here, y minus y1. My y1 is a -1. As soon as I see that double negative, I'm going to put a plus plus. Make it easy for myself. The slope I figured out as 7. Hopefully you have that slope. Let me just keep it all one. Times x minus x1, which is 1. Nice and easy. This is point slope form. Now, it says step 3 to simplify. But if it says substitute the point slope form to find the equation of the line, this is the answer. All right, so you could leave it. Let's go one step further, though. Let's try to find slope intercept form. That's the y equals mx plus b, because it has a slope and an intercept in the formula. So we are going to rewrite this. Y plus 1 equals 7 times x minus 1. And we're going to go further. Distribute. Y plus 1 equals 7x minus 7. Then you subtract the 1 from both sides, and you get the equation of the line y equals 7x minus 8. And that is slope intercept form. It has the slope in it, and it has the y-intercept. That's why it's called slope intercept form. This one is called point slope form because it has a point in it, 1 and -1, and it has the slope in it, point slope form. And that's it. A little bit difficult, but you can get it. Go ahead, see if you could do exactly what we just did in those 2 points. Find the equation of the line from the point intercept form. So we are going to we're going to use the slope formula. That's number 1. Number 2, we are going to use the point slope formula, and then we're going to convert that point slope formula into slope intercept form. All right, so we're going to do all 3, and we're going to label each one. Go ahead, try both of these problems, and we'll come back with the answers. Press pause now. Find the slope first. Press pause now. Okay, so take a look at what I did. I found the slope of 15 over here, 15. -5 minus 10, and then -5 minus a -4, the double negative right there. I put it in my calculator, but just remember, when you have double negative, it becomes both positive, and this is -15 over -1, which is negative divided by a negative is positive. So calculator will give you 15. Then I'm going to take the point slope formula, and I'm going to substitute my same x1 and y1 in. And when I do that, I have y minus y1. The y1 is 10, so I substitute the 10 in. My slope was 15. Then I have x minus a -4, and because this is my x1, and minus a negative is positive. All right, so I put that positive down. This is my point slope form. Point slope. Then I am going to solve point slope form. Remember, y minus 10 equals 15 times x plus 4. You distribute the 15, and you go ahead and you add 10 on both sides. You get y equals 15x plus 70. That is slope-intercept form. So we went one step further. We're going to do the same thing for b. Try it. Press pause now. All right, so I figured out the slope. I had my x1, y1, x2, y2, and I had 4 over -2, which is the slope of -2. Then I used the point slope formula, and I substituted my y1 in as 0 and the x1 as the -1. That made a double negative, so I changed it to a positive. That is point slope form, just like that. No distributive property. Now, when I have to get slope-intercept form, I have to actually do distributive property, and that's what I did right here. -2 times x and -2 times 1. So -2 times x is -2x. -2 times 1 is -2. Notice I dropped the 0. Y minus 0 is just y. Y equals -2x minus 2. This is slope-intercept form. We are finished with these two problems. All right. Hopefully you got those and understand them. So here's the checklist. Slope, you know that slope is m, and it's the steepness and direction of a line. Rate of change means slope. It means the same thing. So if you hear rate of change, it is the linear relationship between the dependent and independent variables. It is the same thing as slope. A direct variation is a proportional relationship. We have been saying this for a couple of slides. Every time I have a chance to tell you it, remember, it is a linear function. It's a line that passes through the origin. So it is 0, 0. We're going to hear a lot more of that in the upcoming lesson. The constant rate of change is equal to the slope. The constant. In 7th grade, you learned y equals kx. Now it's just y equals mx plus b. It's the same thing, but it is it looks a little bit different. Go ahead now. We're going to identify, this is the first one that we're graphing, so I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to put this in full screen and work on this, hopefully together, and just make sure that you have this printed out, or you have a device that you're able to actually go ahead and, graph on. So, remember the slope. This is y equals mx plus b. The slope is the number that is next to the x. So we're going to put 1 over 4 as the slope. And next to it, since this is rise over run, we're going to put, this is a positive, so it's going to go up. And this is a positive, so it's going to go to the right. Remember, slope is rise over run. So all the time you have to use those directional arrows to tell you exactly which way to go. So y-intercept is the other number, that's the 2. Alright, it says graph this linear function, so we are going to go over to the graph, and the y-intercept is 2. So we're going to go up on the graph, and we're going to put a point on 2. to use the slope now, this is the y-intercept is the starting point, right? So the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So we have a 2. So we put that point on 2. But from the 2, we have to rise 1 and run to the right 4. So we're going to rise to 3 and run 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to put another point. Rise again 1 and run to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. We can't rise 1 and run 4 again because we would go off the graph, but it would be right there. You see how it has this pattern of 1 up and 4 to the right. So now we have to put points over here. Remember, we have to fill the whole graph. So now it's down 1 instead of up 1 and to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that point does make a pattern with the other points. And one more time, down 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember, just get a straight edge. All right, don't draw a line that's going to look really, really bad. I'm going to draw my line, my straight edge. You draw yours with your straight edge. All right, just remember, when you put your line on the graph, there's supposed to be arrows on either end, and that's what I'm doing right there. You also put the equation on the line. 1 over 4x plus 2 is the name of this line. That is the equation. Is this linear function a direct variation? Yes or no? No, it is not. The reason why is because it does not cross through the origin. Right? Write an equation that is a direct variation. I'm just going to write y equals 4x. Remember, you just have to put down a slope next to the x. The y-intercept is 0. That's what makes it a direct variation. This is not a direct variation graph, and that's it. Let's go on to the next problem. So, taking a look at this problem, you have to identify the slope of the line. So, what is the slope of this line? So if you said 2 over 3, that is correct. But remember, there's a negative out in front. Don't you hate when there's a negative out in front and you really don't know which number, the numerator or denominator, is negative? Well, if the fraction's negative, think about it. If the fraction is the one that is negative, then you can make either the numerator or denominator the negative, but you can't make both negative. All right? Remember, you cannot make both numbers negative, numerator and denominator, because negative divided by negative is positive. So I always make the top, the numerator, and the one that is negative, on a negative slope. I just do it that way. So since this is the negative 2 and there's a rise over run, the negative 2 goes down because it's negative. And then the positive 3 goes to the right. Make sure you have these directional arrows down because it really does help to graph. All right, so the y-intercept is 2. We're going to start at 2. So go on to the graph, and now you know that the y-intercept is 2. So go over to 2 and put the point on 2. Now we're going to use the slope to graph this. All right, we're going to go down 2 to the right 3. And just take a look at our directional arrows. Down 2 to the right 3. So you should be doing that right now. Down 2 to the right 3. Down 2 again. 1, 2. To the right 3. 1, 2, 3. Down 2 to the right 3 one more time. And that is it, because we ran out of graph there. We have to make points up here. We have to fill that entire graph. So we're going to go up 2 and to the left 3. Up 2 to the left 3. And then one more time, up 2 to the left 3. You have your points in a nice row there. Please take your straight edge and connect all those points now. So I'm going to connect my points with a straight line just like that. And I'm going to move it just so it's a little bit perfect there. Good. And remember, you need arrows on either end, on each end. All right. And once you have the arrows on each end, that looks worse. All right. Put the equation on that line, -2 over 3x plus 2 is the equation of this line. We graphed it. We used the slope. We used the y-intercept. Phenomenal job. Is the linear function a direct variation? No, it is not. Write an equation that has a direct variation. I am going to write y equals 2x. All right, and that is that. Let's go on to the next page. All right. This question asks you to write the equation of this line. Well, I have a graph here. I don't have any other information. The equation of a line, what are the two most important parts of the equation of a line? What must you identify? Well, if you said you have to put it in y equals mx plus b, there are the two things, the two important parts. What must you identify? You have to identify the m and you have to identify the b. Well, I'm looking at this line right now and I can see what the b is right now. So I am going to put m here and b here. And b is right here. It's the y-intercept. What is my y-intercept? Yes, if you said -1, you are correct. That's the y-intercept. And I'm going to use this point. For slope, how many points do you need on the line to figure out slope of that line? If you said 2 points, you are correct, 2. So I have to pick another point along this line. All right. So I'm going to look for a point. See this point right here? That's no good. It's in the middle of like boxes. You need a point that is like right in the corner of the box, right here. That's good. Corner of a box. And you see this point right here? That would be good. You see this point? That would be good. Since I have 2 points already, I'm going to leave them and I'm going to use them. So I'm going to use them and I'm going to do my slope, my rise over run. And I'm going to go to the right and up. Since I'm going to the right, I go right 1, 2, and I'm going to put a 2 on the outside. Then I'm going to go up 1, and I'm going to put a 1 on the outside. So my rise over run is 1 over 2. Rise is 1, run is 2. It's positive because this line is going up from left to right. The y-intercept is -1. What is the equation of this line? I'll wait. Just write it down. Don't wait for me. You have the slope and you have the y-intercept. So y equals 1/2 x minus 1. That is the equation of the line. Just remember, every time, don't get confused. You have an equation of a line you have to write. They give you a graph. You have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the first thing I usually identify because it's the easiest thing. You could tell that the line crosses at -1. So that's where I'm going to start. So immediately I put the b down. Then I'm going to figure out, all right, what's my slope? My slope, rise over run, pick 2 points if they don't give them to you. Pick the points that are in the corners of the boxes, right? Don't pick points that are in the middle, like this point right here is in the middle, like right here. That's in the middle. No good. This point's good. This point's good. This point would be good. This point would be good. And it doesn't matter which points that you use. You can use points that are really far apart, but don't use points that are really far apart if you can avoid it, because that means you have to count really far and you might make a mistake. All right, so let's answer D. Does this linear function have a constant rate of change? Explain. A line has a constant rate of change. Let's prove it. So I am going to go over and up. This is to the right. 1, 2. Over and up. That's 2, 1. Rise 1 over 2. Same thing. And I did this one. Same thing. Does it have a constant rate of change? Yes, it does. Linear functions and you can put straight lines. Have the same slope. Throughout the line. All right, so it has the same slope. If it didn't have the same slope, that means the line wouldn't be straight. All right, so just remember, if the slope changes along this line, that means the line would be all of a sudden curving, right? Because it has a different slope. This one does not. So it's a straight line, and that means the rise over run stays constant throughout. So go ahead, on the next page is this question. Go ahead and see if you can do it. You can, because we just did one that's like it on the page before. So press pause and try this problem right now. Okay, here we go. To write the equation of a line, just like the one that we did before this, you have to find the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope is rise over run, and I picked 2 points. And you see the point that I picked, I usually go for the y-intercept because it's usually a nice solid whole number. So in this case, the y-intercept is 0. So right away I identified that before the slope. And then I looked for another point, and I noticed another point right here that I could use. I could have used this point right here. I could have went down and used this point. But either way, I used these 2 points, and I did my run and rise. My rise over run is 3 over 2. That's my slope. I did not divide it. The equation of this linear function is y equals 3 over 2x. So the linear function, is it a direct variation? Yes, it is. It does cross through. It's a linear function that crosses through the origin. Remember, to be a direct variation, you have to have, it has to be linear, number one, and then it has to cross through 0, 0. And that's it. Hopefully you did get that, and we can move on. So here's the exit slip, and we are going to pause right here. I'm going to let you do this. This is which equation represents the line shown on the coordinate grid below. Go ahead and see if you can answer this. Press pause and try the problem now. So here's the exit slip, right? And this is an example of a question that you can see on a state exam or any kind of exam. Our exam, a quiz, it's a nice question. It's multiple choice. Multiple choice means you can cancel out immediately just based on the y-intercept. All right, so let's just take a look at this line. Do you see the y-intercept? So what is the b? The y-intercept is the -2, right? So there's -2, so a is a possible answer. C is 5, out. -2, so C is a possible answer. 5, out. It's between A and C just by canceling out and using the y-intercept. You have a 50-50 shot of getting this correct. Now, do you notice they give you this point right here and this point? I'm going to use those points. But do you see it says 5, 0? Well, I'm going to just go ahead and, whoa, look at that. That's not good. I don't like that. It goes in between. I know it's 5, but it's also counting by 2s. I'm not liking this. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take these points and I'm going to just take them out. 5, 0. And 0, -2. And instead of using rise over run, I'm going to just go ahead and put x1, y1, x2, y2. But wait a minute. Do I need to bother? I'm sitting here doing this. But let's look at the slope again. Love multiple choice. Is this line positive or negative? If you're saying it's positive because it's going up, you're correct. This is a positive slope. A is 2 over 5. C is -2 over 5. Can this have a negative slope if it's going up? No. A is the answer. Did you figure out slope? I was about to, but then I came to my senses. Wait, I have multiple choice. All right, so let's just see if it does match up, though, because you should be able to do this. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I already have my labels. I already have my answer. I'm going to put the minus sign and the minus sign in. I have y2, which is -2, minus 0. Then I have 0 minus 5. My slope is numerator -2 minus 0, -2. 0 minus 5, -5. Negative divided by a negative, positive. The slope is 2 over 5. The negatives cancel each other out. Negative divided by a negative, positive. You didn't need to go through all that, though. All you really needed, 2 things you needed to know for this question. Number 1, you needed to know that the slope is positive. And you also needed to know what the y-intercept is. As long as you know what the y-intercept is, you can cancel out 2 of them. And then you could cancel out the rest, the other one, because it's not a negative slope. And that's it. That's how you get that problem right. The next part of this lesson is just a checklist for you. You'll probably see this on your page. This is the point slope formula used. Just going through, we just wanted to make sure that you had everything that you needed here to look back at and work through this difficult lesson. And this is point slope form from 2 points. The steps are labeled here for you: step number 1 and step number 2, step number 3. This is really how you do the whole problem. Step number 4, isolating. We put this together for you. This is a good thing to keep, all right, and to study how to do these problems. So for the next thing, please go ahead and take your time and do the 3 takeaways that you need in order to graph the equation of a line. Everything that's in this lesson, it was a long lesson, everything that's in this lesson you are putting down here in 3 bullet points, 3 takeaways. If someone was absent or if someone really needed your help, what would you say that they needed to know to be successful at this lesson? All right. Hope this video helped. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.